and welcome to our webinar series on GSC AML inspections. My name is Alexander, and in this video today we'll cover the topic of ongoing monitoring. We're going to cover the following aspects: ongoing monitoring, how to demonstrate your effectiveness, and best practices. What is ongoing monitoring? Ongoing monitoring describes the ongoing and periodic checks that an operator must undertake in relation to customer due diligence, screening, transactions, and other activities. The monitoring must be effective. Ongoing monitoring requirements are outlined in paragraphs 12, subparagraph 3, which relates to procedures primarily, and 15, which primarily relates to the undertaking of monitoring itself. This is aligned with FATF recommendation 10, specifically in relation to ongoing due diligence. Just to note, paragraph 15 places an obligation on the terrestrial sector to identify a customer where an occasional transactional threshold has been exceeded in a series of linked transactions, after which ongoing monitoring applies. For avoidance of doubt, the thresholds do not need to be exceeded where unusual or suspicious activity is identified. This applies at all times. The primary focus of ongoing monitoring is to identify unusual activity. Where unusual activity is identified, additional further scrutiny must be undertaken, as well as enhanced due diligence. Ongoing monitoring directly assists with other parts of the code. This includes risk-based approach, customer due diligence, record keeping, staff training, and monitoring of compliance. Ongoing monitoring may also benefit you by helping you to understand your customers, their transactions, and ultimately your state better, which may assist in identifying additional risks or equally opportunities for you. So what do you need to do? You'll need to review the information and documents for the purpose of customer due diligence, ensuring they're up to date, accurate, and appropriate, especially where the transaction or the customer relationship poses a higher risk for money laundering or financing of terrorism. This includes terrorism financing and proliferation financing. Screening must be undertaken to identify if anyone is on the sanctions list. So this will include your customer due diligence, enhanced due diligence information, things like identification, address verification documents, source of wealth, source of funds, and so forth. You will need to also apply appropriate scrutiny to transactions and other activities to ensure that they are consistent with the knowledge of the customer, the risk profile, the source of funds for that transaction, and your risk assessments. So this is your business risk assessment, technology risk assessments, and customer risk assessments. Best practices. The code is not prescriptive around how often ongoing monitoring should be undertaken. It states it must be periodic and effective, especially where the risk is higher. This in practice means that certain information, such as customer due diligence, may require less frequent monitoring, whereas information around transactional monitoring or enhanced due diligence may require more frequent monitoring. There is no size-fits-all approach. Where possible and the resource allows it, a review of the estate on an annual basis or more frequently if possible would be beneficial. However, with larger operations, a risk-based approach should be undertaken. In this regard, you would prioritize high-risk customers and perhaps undertake spot checks on lower-risk customers. Reports, minutes, or file notes are sometimes a good way to showcase your work. Definitely send these over to us where appropriate during the inspection process. Just to note, those documents, minutes, file notes, so forth, may greatly assist and enhance your AML CFT reports provided to the senior management team, hopefully assisting you in identifying patterns and trends. We do on occasion see ongoing monitoring being utilised specifically around the review of identification documents. However, I would like to take this opportunity to highlight that this, i.e. paragraph 15, goes beyond the immediate transaction or activity taking place and requires you to consider all relevant information known to you about the customer's business and risk profile. In other words, consideration needs to be made to the whole picture, not just the business itself or the transaction being undertaken at that point. As an example, consider if a customer has advised you recently that they were to move jobs. Is the information around source of wealth still appropriate? Is it still applicable? Perhaps the new job is some distance away from the residential address that they currently reside in. You could consider requesting for up-to-date address verification documents. Or, as another example we highlighted in the proliferation financing video, has the customer provided you with a bank statement which demonstrates that transactions have occurred in a List A country? Perhaps you're already aware that they work for a charity in that area or that they were visiting that country. Or perhaps there are other factors known to you that either address or increase the risk, as the case may be. Take everything into account. Ongoing monitoring should be risk-based, with higher risk relationships and transactions requiring higher frequency of checking. The GSC does expect that higher risk customers are reviewed at least on an annual basis. A decision may be made to utilise systems and controls to help with this. Please remember, where a new system is implemented, a technology risk assessment must be undertaken. A variety of systems can be utilised to assist with ongoing monitoring, from perhaps systems that simply flag when due diligence is due for renewal, to more complex systems which may stop transactions at their track, depending on triggers. Good practices. Whilst all matters must be recorded in line with the code requirements, the more detailed the record is, the better. Shows your workings, considerations, and outcomes and conclusions in a comprehensive manner. This will also assist you in understanding and reviewing your work and operations. Reports and or thresholds for alerts should be set up and reviewed by those with a good understanding of the relevant risk factors identified in your risk assessments, procedures, controls, and understanding of the relevant typologies and red flags. In conclusion, keep customer information accurate and up to date. This can assist with risk assessment considerations such as customer risk assessments and business risk assessments, as well as then consideration around the relevant technology that you wish to utilise. Establish what would appear normal or expected for a customer or a category of customers on your estate. Deter criminals from utilising the gambling sector, and ultimately be used by the authorities to track and locate criminals. Make sure you document as much as possible. This not only assists us in the inspection process, but also greatly assists you to review your estate. We discussed at the start of this video that one of the main purposes of ongoing monitoring is to identify unusual activity which requires further scrutiny and enhanced due diligence. A further video will be published around unusual activity and suspicious activity. Ongoing monitoring can also assist you in the production and the development of the AML CFT reports provided to the senior management team, and can assist you in identifying trends, typologies, especially around responsible gambling. Thank you.